I know members of the XRP community hate to see crypto Glenn coming because I have built my career in the crypto, in the blockchain, in the Web3 space of just being objective with all things investment thesis, news, everything across the board, just being objective. While my contemporaries see no problem with trying to connect imaginary dots that may not be there and trying to pass off conjecture and fable as truth. What am I talking about? I'm talking about how we have heard for the longest from the XRP community that Swift was going to be overtaken by Ripple, or that Swift was going to integrate with Ripple and use XRP. And today I can say with concrete evidence, we know that not to be true. Now, we had used information before that pointed that not, to not be true, but now, I think we have something here that's going to operate as essentially the nail in the coffin. What am I talking about? Earlier today, Swift put out an announcement that basically said, hey, we are going to be developing a blockchain ledger for 24/7 cross-border payments. Swift is working with a group of over 30 financial institutions to build a ledger that is based on a prototype by Ethereum developers' consensus. You scroll down here, you say, Global Traditional Fi, TradFi payment system. Swift said that it is adding a blockchain-based ledger to its network. Swift is working with a group of over 30 financial institutions to build a ledger that can make cross-border payments 24/7 based on a prototype by Ethereum developers' consensus, according to an announcement that was put out on Monday. That's today, September 29th, 2025. The ledger will extend Swift's financial communication role into digital environment, facilitating banks' movement of regulated tokenized value across digital ecosystems. This was said by Swift. Now, what I think is amazing here is, again, as I alluded to it a moment ago, for years, we had people who are in the XRP community who were saying Swift is going to be overrun by Ripple. They're going to be overtaken by XRP. They're not trying to adapt. They're not trying. We knew all of that was not legitimate because we had heard in 2019, 2020, and even into 2021, I want to say, that Swift had been experimenting with different blockchains, even at one point possibly even consider making their own to facilitate a lot of the transaction value that we're talking about here. Swift is a messaging system that supports international banking transitions and is used by more than 11,000 financial institutions and spans across 200 different countries. So that's a very, very broad network. I can understand why people of the XRP camp, the Ripple camp, would want to see Ripple be able to make a foothold into this because it's a very large pie, especially when you take a look at the monetary value that gets transacted on a daily basis. But the fact of the matter is, everything that they were saying regarding this was hyperbole. It was a fable. It was conjecture. They were just lies. Facing suggestion that it could be made obsolete by adoption of digital assets, particularly stablecoins, Swift has been experimenting with blockchain technology and tokenization for several years to try to get in front of basically potential disruption. So, again, when you are a juggernaut, when you are a major player in the space, you're not just going to roll over and die. You're not just going to roll over and allow whatever foothold or strong position that you had in the sector be overtaken by a smaller player. That's not the way that these things work. Okay, so shout out to Swift for continuously trying to evolve and work on their adoption into blockchain technology. Really excited to see where this goes, but more importantly, I'm excited for market participants who may have been listening to members of the XRP camp, the Ripple camp, spread these essentially lies for as long as some of you may be able to remember and say, oh, well Ripple is going to overtake Swift, or Ripple's working with Swift and they're going to use XRP. Today, we know that vehemently not to be true. So again, the more y'all fuck up, the more it makes the objective content creators like myself look like rock stars, and we're here for it. And if you're someone who consumes a lot of content, be mindful of what you're hearing about your assets, right? If everyone is just saying great things about your asset all the time, that's probably a reason to be worried. Now, after this drops, I assume you're going to start to hear a lot of people starting to change their tune because they want to get ahead of what potential blowback could be coming down the pipeline. I'm looking at the Echoes, the blockchain bullies, Ricos, right? Alex Cobbs, digital asset event, all those guys, okay? Be mindful of those kind of content creators because oftentimes they are leading their following to places that get them wrecked, where they're not making substantial amounts of money, and that's what the vast majority of investors come to this space for, to make money. So your investment thesis has got to be sound. People in my camp, you know that we operate with a very objective mindset. We tend to be very crystal clear on a lot of things. We've been calling a fair game, have had a pretty big or a pretty decent beat on what's been going on in the space for a number of years now, not even just this cycle, but even like going back to last cycle as well. So I've said it once, I'm going to say it again. Be mindful of who you're listening to on social media. It matters who you're following on social media. And if you continue to listen to goofies online, you are going to get goofy results. So I'm going to post this on Twitter along with a link. So if you guys want to read this for yourself, you can. But yeah, it's a good day to be an objective investor. We've been shorting XRP since it hit 360, and we've been doing very well. So if you want to see this article, this is put out by CoinDesk. I'm pretty sure at this point it's probably being picked up by a lot of different publications at this time, but I'll leave the link in the description. You all can read this for yourself. I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.